Good morning, everyone. So it's 10:41, so we can now start with the discussion. Okay, so for today's session is that we're going to discuss the first application of your definite integrals, which is about the area. So this area is particularly the area of a bounded region. So it's a bounded region because um, the bounded region will be formed by your functions. So these will be formed or created by different functions. So since we're going to create your bounded region by different functions, so I think one great tool here is that you know how to graph your equations, or you know how to graph your function. So you know how to graph a line, you know how to graph a parabola, any other curves such as ellipse and hyperbola, and especially higher degree polynomial, fourth degree, third degree polynomial, so on and so forth. Okay, so I think that is the great tool here in the following topics that has to come in the second half of the semester. So you need to know how to graph your equations. So I think this is the major part of your solution, the graphing part, because the integral part is just setting up the formulas, and then since you can now use your calculator, so all you have to do is to plug in whatever equation that you have created through the formulas. So mga tag 3 lines lang. So the formula, and then how you set up the formula, and then the answer. So muna na siya ang kuan. So medyo dili na kayo siya super in-depth sa inyong integral, but on how you set up your equations. All right? So there are a couple of scenarios that you can encounter in the area of a plane region. So the region may be above the x-axis, the region may be below the x-axis, or it may be in between, diba? So it may be above and below the x-axis, and a region between two curves. So of course, there are other combination of your graph. So it may be a line plus a parabola, or it may be two parabolas. So it may be an ellipse plus a parabola, di ba? So it will depend on the given functions that you have presented with, that you are presented with. Okay, so why is it talking about x-axis only? So it may also be in the y-axis. So this may be x or y-axis, but um, the x-axis talks about the horizontal strip. So there will be two formulas. So the first one would be the vertical strip. So let me vertical strip. So by vertical strip is that the area is equal to this is the formula. So y sub t minus y sub bottom dx from x1 to x2. So how do you define this formula? So if we try to write the diagram, so on the right side, let's say this one is your vertical strip. So example na siya. And let's try to create a graph Before that, Konday, let's create the graph first and then create the vertical strip. So ato lang balihon. Para you'll understand why it's called a vertical strip. Okay, so let's say this is the graph here. Let's say two parabolas. So half parabola lang ato drawing. Ano lang. Okay? So for your vertical strip, so since the area bounded by the two curves is the one in the middle, di ba? Ano siya? So let me highlight it in yellow para inyo makita nga that's the bounded region. Okay, kani siya. That will be the bounded region in your, that will be the area that you need to find, the area bounded by the different functions. Okay, so let's first create the vertical strip. So let's say you put it in the middle. So the vertical strip is just a representative area that can represent the entire area of the region bounded. Okay, so again, this vertical strip will represent the entire area in terms of integral equation. Okay, so I think that's the wonders of integral. So you can just um, take a representative strip or representative, so in other areas or in other subjects, so you may call it as differential strip, differential area, so on and so forth. So muna siyang yung balik-balik na mga terms in the higher subjects, especially in fluid mechanics. Okay, so if this one is a vertical strip, so let's now try to define the different parts of the equation. So y sub d, it's called y sub d, but it's really called y only, y equation. But it's called y sub d because that is the top, whatever the topmost part of the strip is touching, that would be the equation for y sub d. Okay, equation. So meaning equation of the parabola, which is the red one. Okay, and then y sub bottom, that would be the function touching the bottom part of the strip. That would be y bottom. So how about dx? Where is dx in the vertical strip? So dx is somewhat the width of the vertical strip. So this is dx. Okay. So as you notice in the formula, so it is just like a formula of a rectangle, diba? So if you try to define it even further, so notice that y minus b is the length, diba? And then dx is the width. Length times width is most likely the area of the rectangular vertical strip. So how about for x1 and x2? So x1 and x2 is just the coordinates of the points of intersection in terms of x axis. So why is it in terms of axis nga ang atong gamit y top y bottom man? So take note that in most of your functions, it's, diba? For example, it's y equals mx plus b, diba? So let's say this is your, let's say the equation of the line is y equals 4x plus 1. So let's say this one is your y top. So plug in ninyo sa y top sa equation, you're not going to plug in y, but you're going to plug in the right side of y, diba? So in terms of x, yeah. Y in terms y equals x. So that's why it's called in terms of x. Okay? So length times width, yeah. So ano na siya. And I think what you have to take note also is that since it's dx, so all variables should be in x. in terms of x, diba? So that's why the limit is also in terms of x. So even though that the length is represented as y top minus y bottom, so in if you're going to replace the certain values of those equations, those are all in terms of x variable. So that's what you have to take note, that all variables should be in terms of x. Just follow the dx. Okay. So for x1 and x2, so going back, so the limits of integration for those one are the points of intersection. So let's say these are the points of intersection. And let's say that these are, so we're going from left to right. So the the leftmost part would be x1, y1, and then the second part would be x sub 2, y sub 2. Okay, and then again, that would be all the different parts of the equation. Okay, so for the second part, the horizontal strip. So horizontal strip. So the area would be equal to, so instead of y top and y bottom, so since we are now in terms of y, so we're going to have it as x right minus x left dy from y1 to y2. So of course, in terms of y, so if you try to convert this one in terms of y, so you're going to have um, y minus 1 equals 4x, and then x would be equal to y minus 1 over 4, diba? So those will be the equivalents in terms of x and in terms of y na functions. Okay? So again, kasi maglibog mo ano si express og in terms of x ang y, and then in terms of y ang x, because the other format for y, di ba? Function of x, di ba? Okay, puro siya x ang naa sa equation. Kana siya function of y because all the variables are in terms of y. So that's why that's the way I speak it, because ina naman siya pag represent yun in terms of x, in terms of y. Okay? So in terms of x, this one is in terms of y. So going back, so let's now write the horizontal strip. So let's say this is the horizontal strip. So again, going back to the equation, x right, whatever the rightmost part of the strip is touching, whatever equation is that one, that would be your x right. And whatever the leftmost part of your equation is touching, that would be your x left. And again, the thickness of this one is your dy. Okay? So again, in terms of the, the understanding of the different parts of your equation, that would be from length, and then this one would be the width. Okay? And then this time the the limits of integration would be from the vertical aspect. Diba? So dy man siya, so this would be the, okay? So that would be the distance covered in y aspect. Okay, and then let's write the other one para makita jud. So dx, so vertical strip is in terms of x variable. So for you not to be able to get confused with the different formulas, so once you write your different strips, so kung asa dito ang kuan, kung asa dito ang inyong width, diba? So let's say for example it's vertical strip. So the width is in dx. So since it's in dx, so you should take note that all terms should be in the x variable. So if it's in the width is the dy, so that would pertain that all variables should be in terms of y aspect also. So I think that's the tip here. So another tip is that for you to be able to know that you're going to use that particular strip, whether it's vertical or horizontal, is that upon writing or upon drawing the vertical strip in the middle part, so try checking also on the leftmost part if it's touching the same portion as the same one as the middle part. Okay, again, since you are representing one strip throughout the entire bounded region, so you also have to verify that from left to right, the vertical strip is touching the same equation at the top and at the bottom. So notice that if I place my vertical strip on the leftmost part of the bounded region, the topmost part is still red, the bottom part is still this purple graph. So what if I draw my vertical strip on the rightmost part? So still the same. So the topmost part is still the red graph. The bottom part is the purple graph. So I think it's purple or dark purple. So same goes for the horizontal strip. So again, you have to verify again at the bottom part if it's touching the same graph, if it's touching the same purple and red. So at the right portion, it's still purple. At the leftmost part, it's still red. So at the topmost part, let's try if it touches the same graph. So the topmost part is touching the purple at the right side. The leftmost part is touching the red side. So meaning you can use either two methods in this type of region, this plane region. So why did I talk about this particular aspect that you have to check top, middle, and let's say the far left, the middle part, the far right, or the top, middle, and bottom part of your strips. Because there are certain scenarios wherein the ang katuloy yung equation can repeat. Okay. So if ma-repeat siya, so it will make the equation zero out, diba? So ma-zero in yung equation and you cannot use such equations in the formula. Kaya again, the formula is representing the whole bounded region. Okay? So muna siya ang kanang kuan, ang ang pag-understand sa inyong given equation. So probably one scenario wherein that you have to check your equation is that, for example, yung ano yung graph, diba? You have a parabola, but this you have a line here, so you need to get the bounded region here. So the best strip that you need to use here is the vertical strip. So why vertical? So if you try to write the vertical strip, so the leftmost part is the line plus the parabola, line top, bottom parabola, line top, bottom parabola. So it's okay for the vertical strip, di ba? So what if I use the horizontal strip? So if I use the horizontal strip, so notice that at the bottom part it's parabola against parabola. So sa formula pa lang daan, butlog na siya, di ba? It becomes zero. So dire if kuan siya, di ba? It's parabola against parabola. But for the topmost portion, it's okay because parabola is on the right side, the left side is on the line function. Di ba? So Again, that's how you want to verify your um, strip that you're going to use. So this one is that we're going to use a vertical strip. So horizontal strip is cannot be applied in this particular function. All right, so far, do you have questions or any confusions for the formulas that I presented? So is it clear or do you have um, clarifications before we proceed with the example? So we're just on the first slide, diba? And I have talked much about the area now already. Okay, so I think there's no question, so we can now proceed with the example. Di pa the example, but the steps involved in integration of plane areas. So the number one rule here, the number one step, and the most important step is to sketch your region. So again, throughout the process, or let's say later on when I try to discuss the example, I won't be dealing much with graphing functions. Okay, I think you already have this one in your high school, especially in geometry, diba? So especially pag graph sa line. So I don't know if you have the parabola in your high school or in your senior high. So hopefully na mga subjects. So again, sketching regions. So I think aside from knowing how to sketch regions is you know also how to determine what type of functions you are having. Let's say at first glance you know that this one is equation of a line. At first glance you know that this one is an equation of a parabola, ellipse, so on and so forth. So probably you want to review the standard equation, the general equation for your different functions. Diba? So you have line, parabola, circle, diba? So dagang yung mga na. So let's say for circle that would be x minus h squared minus plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared, diba? Standard formula. So general formula is a bit more complicated. So standard formula for this one, let's say in terms of um, y opening, so x minus h squared is equal to plus minus 4a y minus k, di ba? So for the line, daghang kayo format. Slope-intercept form. Then you also have the general form, di ba? Um, ax plus by plus c is equal to 0, di ba? So another general formula. Yan. Napato yung mga two slope form, slope-intercept form, so on and so forth. So hopefully you know those types of equations so that you can sketch the region in a faster pace compared to let's say siguro mag-discover pa mo na. So again, the um, almost half the topics of this semester will be dealing with graphing equations. So muna siya dapat kiba mo mag-graph sa inyong equations. Okay, so you may try to skip number 2, just go to number 3. So pretending that it's a rectangle, so this is where your vertical strip and the horizontal strip comes in. So you don't have to slice everything into rectangles, so just take one rectangle lang siguro to represent the entire bounded region so that your drawing won't be super messy. Okay, I think number 2 is explaining that, for example, this one is your triangle. So you have to break it into different strips, diba? No, taga kayo mo drawing. Ano. Okay, so add up the approximations and take the limit. This is the formula. So whichever formula you are using, whether it's the vertical strip or the horizontal strip, that is what the formula is about. So approximating the entire bounded region through the strip that you are representing with, whether it's the vertical strip or the horizontal strip. Okay, so let's go to an example. So let's try to solve it
Oh,
first.
sure. Pwede pa balik sa last ng slide.
Kadali sa-
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, so in this example, we're going to solve first using the vertical strip, and then we're going to solve the problem again using the horizontal strip so that you can know the difference, why it's better. So for example, you're able to use both methods, diba? Vertical strip and horizontal strip. So there are some scenarios that the vertical strip is much better compared with the horizontal strip, or the other way around. They said that the horizontal strip is much better compared with the vertical strip. So I think it's because the representation of your formulas. Okay, so for example, this one is in terms of x, diba? So if in terms of y siya, so notice that there's a shift. So this y over 3, and then this one would be x equals the square root of y. So notice that we have a square root if in terms of y siya. So medyo complicated na siya daan, diba? Okay, we have a radical expression. So I think that would be the downside of the horizontal strip later. Because in the vertical strip, you're just integrating 3x and then x squared. While in the horizontal strip, you are integrating a fraction and a radical expression. So again, even though that you are using your calculator, so of course the radical expressions also matters in calculator wise kay if magbutang mo radical expression sa calculator, so medyo dugay-dugay makasolve ang inyong calculator if inana. Okay? So again, let's try to solve this problem using the vertical strip first. So find the area of the region bounded by the line y equals 3x and the curve y equals x squared. So we have a line here, and then this curve here, y equals x squared, is a parabola. So, di ba, at first glance, kibawan mo daan na it's a parabola. So, why is it parabola? Because one is linear, the other one is squared, second degree. So, that's the fastest way that you know how to determine whether it's a parabola or not. Okay, so ang pinaka-shortcut yun ani nga method is that para let's say kibaw mo nga it's a line and it's a parabola. Then this parabola is opening upwards. Diba? And then this line is, let's say, inclining to the right, diba? Since you have a positive slope. Diba? So I think muna siyang advantage if you know or if you understand your equations, diba? The slope, diba? Then the opening of the parabola, if it's opening upward. So I think the technique here is whichever is the linear part in the curve ng equation, since y is linear and x is squared, so it opens upward. So if it's negative y sad noon, so it opens downwards, diba? But since we are having a positive y here, so it is opening upwards. So muna siya ang shortcut. Okay? So I think before we graph our equations, so we have first to determine the points of intersection. So points of intersection. So to do that, it's just we have to equate your equations. equate the two equations given. So y is equal to 3x, then you're going to have also y equals x squared. Then equating the two equations, y against y, this is now 3x equals x squared. So isolating all equations on the left side, or let's say the right side, okay, para positive ang kuan. So regardless of that one, that's x squared minus 3x is equal to 0. So hopefully you know how to get the roots, diba, of your x variable. So I think that's in your algebra before. So factoring 1x, this becomes x times x minus 3 is equal to 0. So getting the roots, so x1 is equal to 0, x2 is equal to 3. So hopefully you know how to get the roots of the your functions. Okay, again, it's just algebra. So next one is we try to get the pair of the two x's that we have obtained. So at x equals 0 first, so again, you may either use the equations above, y is equal to x3 or y is equal to x squared. So let's just use y is equal to 3x because it's a simple equation. So 3 times 0, then what we have now is y is equal to 0. So meaning the first point of intersection is at, so this one it becomes y1 is at, so x1, y1 is equal to 0 and 0. Okay, so next at x sub 2 equals 3. So again, same equation, 3x, then 3 times 3. So y sub 2 is equal to 9. So our second point of intersection is at 3 and 9. Okay, so I think this is the time that we're going to be using our graph. So let me draw first the x and y axis. So pasensya lang daan if you siya. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Then 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the first point of intersection is at 0 and 0. Then the second one is at 3 and 9. Okay, so next is we're going to, so again, since this one is a shortcut method, so medyo ito na siya. Kanang, di, kini siya like super detailed because I'm not using the basic way of graphing equations. So let me write first itakog ko. Kanis lang maroon lang siguro. So let me draw the line first. So again, since I know that my line is inclining to the right due to the positive slope, so I can just connect the two dots here, di ba? So this one is my equation of a line. Okay, and then for the parabola, so I know that it's opening upwards, di ba? As as far as I can understand my drawing, di ba? Okay, try to understand this given equation. So it's opening upward, so I'm just going to create a curve that goes upward, starting from 0, and then the other one is on the left side, diba? So it won't matter if it's not really accurate, basta you know that the points of intersection is being bounded by these two functions. So again, the area of interest is this one between the curves here, the curve and the line. So of course the parabola is correct because again, if you really want to go deeper with the formula, so the standard formula for this one is x minus h squared, then plus 4a y minus k. So again, h and k is the vertex of your parabola, which is kaning pinakatumoy sa letter V. Ano, parang kaning V part sa inyong one. Ano, that's the h and k. So again, since looking at the equation, since there's no other presented constants, so meaning it's 0, diba? That's why it's x squared. And let's say it's plus 4a, then times y. So 4a is just 1, diba? Looking at your y variable, so 1 times y, diba? So 4a is equal to 1. So meaning the focus is 1/4. So hopefully you know those terms, diba? Focus, latus rectum, sa parabola. Okay, again, those are important terms. Okay, so going back to the discussion. So again, let's now use the vertical strip. So again, verify first. So bottom part, up, top part is the maroon part, the maroon graph. The bottom part of the strip is the kaning marag purple, dark purple na graph or dark blue. So middle part still the same. Maroon on the top, bottom part dark blue. Same goes for the topmost part of the strip. So it's maroon against the dark blue. So we can say that the vertical strip can fully represent the entire bounded region. So the next part is you just have to use your formula. Area is equal to, again, since it's vertical strip, y top minus y bottom dx from x1 to x2. So again, y top, this equation is y is equal to 3x. Bottom part of the equation, that would be the curve y equals x squared. And again, points of intersection would be at 0, 0, and then this one is 3 and 9. So again, since we are in terms of x, so this would be 0 going towards 3. Diba? Okay, so utilizing now the equation, so this should be, so y top first. So take note, I'm using brackets kay para I think that's a safe way in putting your equations in the calculator. So put as many parentheses that as you can in your calculator para jud siya ma-enclose properly ba. Dili maglibog yung calculator. So y top is again 3x. And I think also it's also a way for you to be able to trace your equations. And this one is minus x squared and then dx from 0 to 3. And this, and then again, since you can use your calculator, so the answer would be equal to square units. So try using your calculator now so that you may have an experience in solving it using the calculator. And tell me what the answer is. Okay, so what's the answer?
4.5, sir.
So it's 4.5. So you can also use the fractional method or the fractional format since I think that's what's that's what most calculator ngayon yung igamit karon na mo give out, diba? So it could be 9 over 2 or 4.5. Okay, so how about if we're going to use the horizontal strip? So just not so let's just utilize the same page na lang siguro para we don't have to draw it again. But I think from my previous class I just copied the graph sa answer gani sa yesterday's class. But sige lang. Ato lang siyang i-squeeze diri tanan. So if we're going to use now the horizontal strip, so again, verify everything. So let's start at the bottom part. So the right portion of the vertical, of rather the horizontal strip is the dark blue, the left is the maroon. So let's say at the middle part. So it's still the same. So dark blue against maroon. So it's okay. So at the topmost portion, it's still the same, di ba? It's dark blue, and then the left side is maroon. Now for the right side of the equation, so again, since we are now in terms of y, so since this one is the curve, so muna siya itong i-represent, di ba? Ano siya? So this one is x equals square root of y. So see the difference between the two equations, di ba? Gibali-bali lang siya, di ba? So it could be in terms of x, it could be in terms of y, whichever strip you are using. So this one, on the left portion, the maroon graph, in terms of y, this would be x equals y over 3. So again, take note that these are the same equations expressed differently. So it's expressed in terms of x, expressed in terms of y. But they are the same equation. So gimanipulate lang siya in order for us to be able to use the formula. So let me write the formula for the vertical strip here. Area is equal to x right minus x left. So again, the thickness is now in terms of the vertical axis. So it's dy thickness, di ba? So that would be from y1 to y2. So also take note that our y1 to y2 is now this one, 0 going towards 9. So again, all you have to do is just plug in the equation. So again, I like putting brackets kaya para I can trace my equations. So x right is square root of y minus x left, the maroon graph, that would be y all over 3. And then this one is dy. So my limit of integration is from 0 to 9. So I think if you try to plug this one in your calculator, this would take some time. because it's dealing with a radical expression. So hopefully that the answer is still the same. Okay, so how much is the answer? Or medyo nag-load pa ang
4.5,
calculator?
sir.
So 4.5 gyapon, di ba? But probably if you try to, if you're really answering it, so I think you can see the difference, di ba? Na mas loading siya if you are using the radical expression. So both have the same answer, but again, you just have to kanang mo lagi, you just have to verify jud if. So even though that it's complicated, or let's say it's easy way of representation, it's an easy way of representation. So most likely, you still have to verify it if it's applicable, di ba? So what if ang kanang given equation di ay, it's more applicable on the horizontal strip because you cannot use the vertical strip, di ba? So ana, so mapugos yung calculator og solve. So at least I think the good thing here is that you're just going to have three lines in your integration. You don't have to integrate it manually. You can just use the calculator, di ba? Three lines, solution, then you present your equation, then your answer. So ana ra siya, di ba? And I think magdaog tanan sa pag-graph jud. So if you don't know how to graph, so kana medyo lisod-lisod jud. Okay, so questions or clarifications for the first problem. So I just put the horizontal strip na lang diya para dili na kayo ko mag punta-punta sa next slides. So questions before we proceed with the next example.
So far, sir.
Okay, sige. So let's proceed with the next. Okay, so this will be the solution. So of course, when you try to make your assignment, so you may try to verify your graph using Desmos. So of course, you have to create your own graph, not through Desmos. So again, Desmos is only through verification. So take your assignment seriously. I think that would be helpful in the final exam wherein you have to graph it on your own. Because again, once I check your answers, I'm going to look for solutions wherein you're going to um, solutions na ma-create in yung graph. So for example, yung ani, di ba? Then let's say you know that this one is a parabola na nagsuwat-suwat mo sa papel. This one is a line. Then others could be also be trying to show me the formula, x minus h squared. So if the graph just magically appeared in your paper, so that would be invalid. I won't be considering your answer if the graph just magically appeared in your paper. So dapat na siya basis or evidence that leads towards the graph itself. All right. So this would be the answer 9/2 or 4.5. So again, you don't really have to compute this one manually, but you can just use your calculator. So of course, if you try to integrate manually, so You can see the difference between the strips earlier, di ba? So this one can easily be integrated. But for the horizontal strip, notice that if you try to integrate this one manually, probably it will give you a hard time because you are dealing with a radical expression. Okay, so for the last graph is for the last problem. So I'm just going to give you two problems. Okay, I think again the majority of this topic is more on graphing your equations. The formula is just there, and I think you are able to understand it through through a couple of examples. Diba? Again, I have given you all the tips that that you will have in order for you to be able to use the horizontal and the vertical strip correctly. Okay, so this one is a fourth degree polynomial, but most likely this one is still a parabola. Okay, one is linear. So even though that one is linear, the other one is fourth degree. So probably dili siya ingon na parabola jud na katong murag perfect nga murag ana jud ka nakahait na parabola. So probably this one is, let's say, a wide parabola ana guro na siya. Then this one is a parabola. So squared, and then the other one is linear. So kani siya ang perfect na parabola. So this one is just a semi-parabola. Basta one is linear gani, and then the other one is, let's say, a higher degree. That's a parabola. Perfect parabola is squared and linear. So kani semi-parabola na siya kay fourth degree and first degree linear. Okay, so first and foremost, we're going to solve for the points of intersection. So y equals x to the power 4, and then y equals 2x minus x squared. Okay, so we're now going to have x to the power 4 is equal to 2x minus x squared. So isolating all equations on the left side, this would give us x to the power 4 plus x squared minus 2x equals 0. So you can factor out 1x, x cubed plus x minus 2 is equal to 0. So the first root is equal to 0, diba? This one here. So how about for the other values of x? We have a third degree polynomial. So meaning we're going to have four roots, diba? Kay x to the power 4 man. So x2, x3, and then x4. So let's try to utilize everything that we can with the calculator. So again, since you can now use your calculator, try looking for a mode in your calculator. So I think mode equation. I think saan na siya nga mode ah? Finding the roots gani. So di ba naman tay quadratic equation. So this one is a third degree polynomial, and I think your calculator can solve this one. So try looking for ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d is equal to 0. And then a, b, and c needs to be inputted. So we have 1, then b is 0. So 1, 0, 1, and then negative 2. Sige daw. So try looking for the answer if. So probably 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. So try looking for the roots. Sige, so try looking it in your calculator. So wala ko yung calculator, so I'm just saying it from memory rigid. So I think it's mode 5 man siguro or mode 2. Natanawa lang ninyo. Sige, so unsa na may answer?
Ang usa ka root sir kay 1 unya ang duha others kay imaginary number.
So 1 and then, I'm sorry. So 1 and then imaginary, di ba? Okay, so that would be the answer. So regardless of the imaginary concept, so we're just going to deal with 0 and 1 because muna siya atong kailangan for creating the graph, di ba? Okay, so we're going to utilize 0 and 1, and then this one is, we don't utilize the imaginary number. So it's not really totally imaginary, but nasa value, di ba? Kay it's negative 0.5 plus the imaginary number. But again, since we're graphing, we don't use the imaginary aspect of the roots. Okay, so at x sub 1 is equal to 0. So let's say we're going to use x to the power of 4. So that would be 0 to the power of 4, then y is equal to 0. So this should be the first root. Um, x1, y1 is at 0 and 0. So at x sub 2 equals 1, so y to the power of, x equals x to the power of 4, y equals x to the power of 4, then y to the power of 4. So your y value is equal to 1. This is equal to y sub 2. So x sub 2, y sub 2 is equal to 1 and 1. Okay, so you now have 2 points of intersection. So what's left for us to do is to graph your equation. So of course, you may try to manually solve your equation, di ba? Manually graph your equations, kanang tabular method, kanang 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ana. Okay, so ako ra siyang gidako para kuan. So let's say my 1 is here, then the other one is here. Okay, since our points of intersection is at 0 and 1 man, di ba? 0, 0. And this one is at 1. So graphing first the x equals 4, x equals y equals x to the power 4. So probably this is the graph. Well, maigo no, sige lang. Okay. And then for the parabola is going downwards. So again, I know that it's going downwards because let me show you. Let me show it to you later. Okay, so muna siya. And the region bounded is this one. Ato siyang i-colorful ug maayo para dili kay sakit sa mata, di ba? Puro red inyo makita. This one is the region bounded. So again, if we try to determine why it's going downwards, so if we try to create this one in standard form. So y equals, getting the negative outside the equation, this becomes x squared minus 2x. Okay, then divide everything by negative. This becomes negative y x squared minus 2x. So completing the square, this one is negative y um, x squared minus 2x. So negative 2 divided by 2 time square, so plus 1. So plus 1 also on the left side to make the equation balance. Now our equation is now negative y minus 1. Then this one becomes x minus 1 squared. So notice that the vertex is at 1 and 1. So meaning if you try to create the other portion of the parabola, padung siya dire, di ba? So ana na siya pag-determine sa inyohang. So ako lang siyang gi-shortcut because we're running out of time kay hapit sa 12. Okay, so that's how you present your equation later on. Dapat with basis. Okay. So let's now first solve it using the horizontal strip. Rather the vertical strip first. So again, at the leftmost portion, to verify first the vertical strip. So blue against maroon, then blue against maroon gyapon, dark blue rather. Then same, okay? So we can now use the formula for the vertical strip. So this would be y top minus y bottom dx from x1 to x2. So the formula would be y top is equal to y equals 2x minus x squared. Okay. And then y bottom is equal to y equals x to the power of 4. So 2x minus x squared. So again, take note that I'm going to use many parentheses and brackets to isolate my terms. Kaya para kibaw ko sa pag-track nila. I know how to track the terms that I am presenting. Then from 0, x value, 0 to 1. And then this is the value of your vertical strip, square units. So pili answer. Wala, wala nag-answer. Panggutom no?
7/15.
Okay, so it's 7/15. So, paspasig answer kay para makakaon na ta. Hasta ako, igutom na sa go. Okay, so 7 over 15. So again, you may not necessarily write it in decimal, kanang in whole and whole number and decimal kay para murag tibuok siya nga answer, 7 over 15. So most likely preferred ang fraction over the decimal katong numerical value jud. Okay, so for the horizontal strip, so this one is the horizontal strip. So right maroon, left is dark blue. So at the middle part, right maroon, left is dark blue, still the same. So even at the top portion, that's right maroon, left dark blue. So we can utilize also the horizontal strip. So that would be xr minus x left dy from y1 to y2. So our problem now is we still have to convert everything in terms of y, diba? So probably this one is an easy conversion because x is just equal to the fourth root of y. So that would be our x, right, diba? So this one is our x equals fourth root of y. So how about for the other one, kaning inyong parabola? So let's just try to continue with this line here. Ano siya? Kani atong gimanipulate kanina. Let's borrow this one. So this would be negative y plus 1. So ako lang siya ibalik ha. Mag-multiply ang negative. And then this one is x minus 1 squared. So getting the square root, this now becomes the square root of negative y plus 1 equals x minus 1. Then isolating your x, i-isolate mo dyan ang mga x, charot. Um, this one is square root of, so ako lang siya i-reverse ha, para dili ko, ba't itanaw ng maguna ang negative good. 1 minus y, and then transpose negative 1 to the other side, this becomes plus 1. And this becomes my x left. Diba? Square root of 1 minus y plus 1. So I can now plug it in the equation. So x right first. So again, starting with the fourth root of y. And then minus the square root of 1 minus y plus 1. And then this would be dy. So from 0 to 1. So I think ang among previous class ani yesterday is that different ang answer. So probably it's because we have an imaginary root. Wala dili siya makadetect sa inyong horizontal strip. So probably it's the same but it will take a long time lang siguro. So dapat 7 over 15 pud siya. Okay? So questions or clarifications before we take our lunch?
Question, sir.
Hmm.
What's the reason gali, sir, nga gisolve na nimong kuan ganiya? Kanang below sa y is equal to 2x minus x squared.
Asa kaning parabola?
Dara, sir. What's the reason gali na imong ginana form?
Kani siya kani?
Yes, sir.
Akong gi-verify if the parabola is opening downwards. So ako siyang
Okay, sir.
gihimo into standard form. Standard form man siya sa parabola. Standard form.
And you said, sir, na we'll need to show it para na basis and stuff.
Para na basis sa inyong graph. So akong mga graph nga gipang present is puro to shortcut na ko kay para kuan. I think ang highlight ani nga kuan is not the graphing man good, but the formula for the area. So probably the graphing part I leave that one to you kay I think it's in your high school days, but if it's not, just try to do some self study on the graphing kay. I think dali naman ang graphing kay daghan na siya ng mga kuan.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so any other questions before we leave? So this is the answer there kana siya. 7/15. Okay, so question, Clarence.
O balik sa imong last slide, sir.
Itong last slide is ano naman siya? Pag-get sa
Ah,
points of intersection. Okay, so any other question? So again, the purpose of me showing the two methods of solving is that it's not necessarily that you have to do the two methods, but you just have to pick one. And again, as you can see with the situations that we have presented, that we are presented with, both the horizontal and vertical, mas makita ninyo ang advantage sa other, di ba? Let's say, for example, this one. Um, di ba? The equation on the vertical strip is a bit easier to look at compared with the horizontal strip. Diba? So you are dealing with fourth root, yeah, napadyo yung square root. Diba? So even on the simple problem sa atong first problem ganina. So diba, you can compare the equations, diba? 3x minus x squared, and then you have this one square root. So again, you have to verify everything before choosing a certain strip that you are going to use in solving the problems that you are presented with. Okay, so this will be the assignment. So only 6 problems, but probably it will be a challenge to you guys, especially on the graphing portion, and the answers are already given as well. Okay, I think mo na yung ipangayo sa katong other half sa semester, di ba, katong integration techniques. So kato ako maghatag og kanang solution kay of course they're all found on the internet. So kana medyo wala na ako siya gikuan jud gi tagag answer jud kay you can just search for symbol lab, you can just search for integral calculator, and I think even though that it's not the complete solution, but you're going to have an idea on how to start off with the integration technique. So dire is since you are formula based, the problem here is how to graph your equations. Okay? So I think that would be all, and I think I have posted this one already in the canvas. So if wala, I'll just post it. I'll just try to look or just try to verify if I posted it last night, and then probably the video will be posted later, probably after lunch or probably after this class. I'm going to post it in the canvas as well. All right. So our last session will be next week before we have our long weekend. So before you go to Bantayan or before you have your long weekend for the Holy Week, so our last session would be on Tuesday next week. That would be on the 12th of 12 ba? 12. It's on the 12th. Okay. So if there's no further question, so I think this is it for this meeting. So see you again next Tuesday for our next discussion. Still on area, but it's on polar equations. So medyo lisod-lisod na po na siya. Okay, so thank you and goodbyes and see you next week.
Goodbye, thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Goodbye,
everybody.
sir.
Bye.
Okay, okay. Enjoy your lunch, everyone.